Hello, this is another Squarespace Do-It-Yourself tutorial, and this one is going to be on creating custom index anchor navigation or anchor-based navigation for templates that use index pages with multiple sections like Fulton or Shift or Pacific, or for one-page sites. Basically, anything where you have an index with different sections that are actual pages in your structure, so it ends up looking like this, where you've got your banner section, section 1, section 2, another banner section right there. I actually got those out of order, I think. So that's basically what we're looking at. And let me just make sure I got these all in the right order here. Weird. Okay, well, regardless of that, we'll go ahead and start on this. So, like I said, this is anchor-based navigation, so we're going to need some custom stuff in it. We're going to need anchors that will go to, that will basically be like your page URL. These are the things that you're going to be scrolling to or navigating to. We're going to have to come up with a custom nav. Some Squarespace templates have like an index overlay nav over here. It's usually 3 circles. It's kind of crappy. It doesn't really tell you where you're going, things like that. And it doesn't provide anchor links from, if you're going to link from like a button on your home page to, say, like banner section 2, which is going to be partway down another page. It doesn't really give you any options to do that. Let's see if I can drag that there. So what we're going to want to do is, first of all, set up our anchors, so where we're going to be scrolling to on this. So every spot you want an anchor, we're going to put in a code block, and this can be on a banner image section. Let me get rid of this. This can be on, you can have regular links within multiple sections, which is something that I'm going to show you as well. And we can do a bunch of different things, so let's start getting to it. First, we're going to set up our first link here, and this one's going to be on the banner image itself. And the reason I'm doing that is because when you're scrolling down a page like this, you're going to want to have this be your banner section, the banner image be the start of the section if you're using banner images. So when you hit your scroll, and actually I'll show you how this works real quick on another site that I built. So this basically works like this. This is a Fulton template, and what we're doing is we're building this. So normally you don't have any way to scroll in between these sections, which is kind of a pain in the ass on desktop, and we're basically building this. So you notice how that anchor is right here so that it scrolls to the anchor image, and then you just set an offset that's going to let you stop it where you want, or add enough padding to the top of the page where you can stop it where you want. So let's set up our anchors, and like I said, these are basically just code blocks that are going to provide some speed bumps in the scrolling and some navigation reference to scroll to. So anchors are like any regular link, so it's A, and you give it a name. A name, section 1. And that's an anchor. I usually give it a name and an ID that's different than what the name is, and the reason for that is that if we give it a more unique name, the structure that we're setting up right here, you couldn't do this from another page. So you couldn't have these and have those anchors on another page and have it scroll down to it. In order to do something like that, basically like this, we find a tote and it just brings you right down to the totes already. That's where you have to have this more this ID that's different than your name. I'm not sure why exactly Squarespace requires it like that. That's normally not necessary on others on like a hand coded site. But usually I'll give it a name and an ID that are similar but unique. I guess is the bottom line. So we'll do that in there. Add another one here. And it can be in your page description. Oh, my internet's kind of slow. So this anchor can be pretty much anywhere. It can be page description. It can be within a text content. It can be in a ton of different spots. As long as you've got that code. Set up. And we'll set up one here. So I'm just setting up a couple of different spots that, actually that does have to be a code block. A couple different spots for these anchor links to live. One other thing, you'd never want to use just a number like that for an ID. Code tends to get kind of finicky in that way, so you're always going to want to write it out or have a word attached to it, never just the number itself. So now we've got our section, our anchor links set up. Now we're going to want to build some navigation to go to them. So we'll put in a code block, and this code block can go on any page in the any page. I'm going to just apply it real quick and show you while I'm talking here. That can go any page in the index that we're setting the navigation for, the page index. Because it's going to be fixed onto the side, so it really doesn't matter. But I usually just like to keep it so that it's in the first one, just because that's makes the most sense to me. So finish this. And for anybody that knows just a little bit about HTML, basically just setting up an unordered list. Your href or your URL for your A tags in your nav here is going to just be a £, and then your ID is the same as the anchor name that we're scrolling to, basically. So your A name and this ID should be the same. And the reason for that is the script that we're going to be putting in here to make this function. But first, make sure that we have jQuery enabled on every page of our site, or at least at the very minimum on this page. And we do that in Settings, Advanced, Code Injection. And I've got another tutorial on how to do this if you don't remember. But basically, a Squarespace script with plugin.js. This comes from them. Same thing with site.js. And then bring in whatever jQuery version you want. I use the Google CDN, the Ajax library for that. So, but basically get jQuery enabled on your site. specifically on the page that you're going to be doing it on. That advanced settings enables it on every page. And then come back to your code block where you built your navigation. Oops, don't want to remove. Edit. And we'll toss in the script for the block. Okay, basically what this means is we're going to scroll to an anchor function, and this is anchor ID. So we're going to create a variable that tags it with basically whatever our anchor name is. That is going to be the anchor ID, which here's your anchor ID right there. So that's why you want to remember what you named these anchors. And then we're going to say, okay, HTML or your body, or in other words, your website. We're going to animate that. So we're going to animate your site, and we're going to scroll down to the anchor offset, and I've got it -80, which is 80 pixels. And it's a scroll speed of slow. You could also set like 600 milliseconds, 1,000 milliseconds, anything like that. But the important part here is the A name ID. So this is basically saying the ID of the nav. So when I click on section 1, this should bring me to section 1. When I click on section 2, section 2, section 3 will be section 3. So here is the anchor ID from the A name, which is created here, and the nav ID is right there. So let's go save that bad boy. And we've got our banner sections, which scrolls down to here is our anchor ID there. Oh, section 2, section 1 scrolls down to that. Section 2, so apparently I was wrong. We cannot have it in here. I'm guessing that the banner, or that the settings for that, for the page description block strips it out. Oh yeah, it turns it into, or it formats it into regular text. So we can, let's see here. I've never tried this, but I'm going to try it real quick. Section 2. No. Save. So we'll have to put this one in a code block down here. When we go back here, there we go, section 2, section 1, etc. But we don't want to have to scroll back up to get to all these sections all the time. So let's do some custom CSS, and we'll staple them to the side here. I mean, you could theme them in any way you want. You could have them floating up here. You could have them absolutely positioned in each one of these sections. I just like to stick it to the side with fixed positioning and a little bit of CSS transform rotate, just because it seems to be to consume the least amount of real estate. So we'll give that a shot. Oops. Cancel that. And to do this, we need a couple of things. So we've got UL class, page nav. We don't need this to say products. That's going to let us style this menu as a whole, and then we'll style the LI within it. So basically give your UL a class that's going to separate it from any other list, unordered list on the page. And then we'll go to Design, Custom, CSS. I'll open this in a window so that we can actually see it. And we'll come down here. Oops. Something I always like to do in my custom CSS is not only indent so that it's easier to figure out where you're at, but also comment the heck out of everything with double slashes, because that'll make it a lot easier when you're trying to figure out later if somebody else is, taking over your site or the client's updating it or whatever. It just makes it a lot easier to pick it apart. So we have UL page nav, and within that we've got a whole bunch of code, which I'm just going to paste in, and then I'll walk you through rather than trying to retype. Okay, so page nav, first thing we're going to do, and I'll kind of kick this out over here. First thing we're going to do is take that menu that was take that menu that was just a vertical list, and we're going to rotate the whole thing on the side. And the reason that I rotate it first is because I found out the hard way, if you rotate these individually using the list item down here, then it's really tough to position the styling rather than rotating the whole thing and trying to fix position it from there. Because this fixed positioning gets really kind of weird otherwise, because your top becomes your left, your right becomes or your left becomes your top, and basically you have to turn your whole mindset 90 degrees. So it's easiest to do it like this. So we rotate it 90 degrees, we position fixed, sticks it to the side of the page. 300 is we're telling it where to go, basically. So we can still do it from the top here since it's the top down on the menu. So 300 pixels is something, I like to use pixels here. Normally I would use percents or VWs, view width. And the reason I use pixels is that so it doesn't really matter how tall somebody's browser window is. It's still going to be the same amount from the top, so it still gives me plenty of room underneath the navigation. So actually in my site I'm using overlaid nav, so I'll probably do something like 250 or something like that. But Z index 500 means that it's going to ride up over anything else I set on the page. And then our left is going to be different on whatever like page or whatever site, or basically it's going to be different for whatever text you do here, because it's wanting to count left from here this way. So it's kind of weird, and it's going to be different when you're logged in than when you're logged out. So a couple of things, we'll save this real quick. Here's where you're going to want to look at it when you're not logged in and figure out where you're at, and then right click and inspect that thing. And we bring our inspector over here. Okay, page nav ID. And where's our left? Oops. The index, we're going to bring a 500 back in there. Where is our left? Oh, so we don't have any left on it because we don't have products anymore. That's what I get for copy and pasting code over. There we go, left, -183. Let's see where we're at. Okay, so we're a little bit off the page with 183. So, page nav. And you'll notice how this is actually adjusting over here. That's one of the huge benefits of the inspector. And you'll notice how I've got way more padding underneath here than I do on top of here. And the reason I did that is because sometimes Firefox, Safari, and Chrome will have this left set a little differently. It'll be a little further in, a little farther out. So I like to add a little extra padding just in case it sneaks out this way so that you don't get like this 1 or 2 pixel gap under here. So what I did is I've got 3 pixels on the top which is actually your right here. 10 pixels on the bottom and then 1 on each side for the anchor nav of the padding there. So that'll let me set or let us have some room for error in different browsers. Okay, but that's a little bit too much out. Let's set it right about there. So negative 166. Then a couple of the other things we got going on. So we got list style none, that got rid of the bullet points. Display inline block. I use that rather than float here because it keeps the height. And generally I'm not a huge fan of float. It's definitely got its places, but inline block I find is a little bit easier to manage for navigation and most things like that. So inline block tells it rather than stacking one on top of another, display left to right, which looks top to bottom because we're rotated 90 degrees. I've set my font family, Freight Sans. My color is the color of the anchor itself. My background is the background anchor. Font weight, and then I'm saying on hover, change the color to something else, and you can put in whatever colors you want. And then here's something important too. So I've got media screen and max with 640. 640 is where the Fulton template breaks from tablet to desktop. On other templates usually will have like 760 or different things, but you'll notice that if I go down, I don't really have anything to break, but there's 588 and 640. You'll see how it adjusts. So I'm saying at less than this, get rid of this navigation on the side because it starts to look really cluttered. So it's more of just a desktop function. And then we've got our nav stuck to the side. That's pretty much it for the page nav, but I'll show you one other thing, and this is the reason why I'm using the, I'll show you the actual thing. So the reason why we're using actual IDs over here besides just the section name is if I've got a button over here in another part of the site or a link or whatever, but I want to link to that specific, like the third section in that index on some other part of the site. Normally, you'd think that I'd just be able to, oh, we want an external. That I'd just be able to do this, which is the A name, which is what we're linking to in our fancy script over there. But for some reason, since we're coming from another page, it's not gonna really like us to do that. So normally you'd set up this slash means use your root site URL and go to anchor, index page, anchor section 3, but we'll show you that this really doesn't work too well. See, it goes over there, but it just goes to the top of the page. So we want to get a little bit better than that and actually use the anchor. Now note, it's not going to go to the page and scroll down, but it will get you to the right section of the right page if we use that other specific ID. There we go, and now we're down to banner section 3. And that is it for this tutorial.